Deep in the Amazon's emerald heart, a cursed sapphire whispers death. Hercule Poirot, the world's greatest detective, faces a mystery where every clue could be his last. Will his brilliant mind unravel the curse, or will the jungle claim him? Chapter 1. The Call to the Jungle. The story begins in the cozy, book-lined study of Hercule Poirot, where the little Belgian detective is sipping his tisane. His mustache perfectly waxed, his mind restless for a new challenge. It's 1935, and London's fog is as thick as ever, but a letter arrives that changes everything. It's from an old friend, Dr. Émile Laurent, a botanist living deep in the Amazon rainforest. His words are frantic, scrawled in haste. A priceless sapphire, rumored to be cursed, has been stolen from a remote village, and people are dying in mysterious ways. Laurent begs Poirot to come at once. The detective's grey cells spark with curiosity, a curse, murders, a jungle adventure. It's unlike anything he's faced before. He packs his suitcase, adjusts his hat, and boards a ship to Brazil, ready to unravel the mystery that feels alive with danger. For you watching, imagine being called to a place where every shadow hides a secret wood. You answer, that's where. We find Poirot stepping into a world where logic might not be enough. The Amazon is a far cry from Poirot's usual polished crime scenes. The air is thick with humidity, the trees alive with strange cries. Laurent meets him at a rickety dock, his face pale and eyes darting. He explains the sapphire's legend. It's called the Tear of the Moon, a gem said to belong to an ancient Amazonian goddess. Steal it, and her wrath brings death fever, madness, or worse. The village, nestled by a murky river, is in chaos. 3 people have died since the theft. A local guide, a British explorer, and a young woman, all with no clear cause. Poirot listens, his sharp eyes scanning Laurent's nervous gestures. Is it poison, a killer, or something supernatural? He doesn't believe in curses, but the fear in the village is real. The detective sets up in a small hut, his neat habits clashing with the wild surroundings. He questions the villagers, their faces etched with suspicion, their stories tangled with myths. A name keeps coming up. Signora Carvalho, a wealthy trader, who was seen near the sapphire's shrine before it vanished. Poirot's first clue. She's nowhere to be found. As Poirot digs deeper, he notices the villagers' rhythm drums at night, whispered prayers, eyes watching him from the trees. He sketches a map of the crime scene in his notebook, marking where the sapphire was kept, a stone altar in a clearing, now empty. The villagers claim the gem glowed faintly, as if alive. Poirot scoffs, but notes their fear. He examines the altar, finding faint scratches, signs of a hurried theft. His mind races. Who had the motive, the means, the opportunity? Laurent mentions a rival expedition, led by a brash American named Jack Harlan, camped nearby. Could they be involved? Poirot decides to visit them next, but the jungle feels like it's watching his every move. For you at home, think about this. When the world feels alive with secrets, how do you trust your own eyes? That's Poirot's challenge as he steps into the unknown. This first chapter sets the stage for a mystery that's as wild as the Amazon itself. Poirot's out of his element, but his brilliance shines brighter than ever. The Tear of the Moon is more than a gem, a puzzle wrapped in fear. In the next chapter, we'll follow Poirot as he meets Harlan's expedition and uncovers a web of greed that thickens the plot. Stay tuned for more. Chapter 2. Meeting the rivals. Poirot adjusts his hat against the relentless sun as he treks through the dense undergrowth, toward Harlan's camp, guided by a wary villager who mutters warnings about outsiders and curses. The path is muddy, alive, with insects that buzz around his face, but the detective presses on, his mind focused on the potential suspects ahead. Harlan's expedition, he's learned, is a group of treasure hunters posing as archaeologists, funded by wealthy backers eager for ancient relics. As they approach the camp, the sounds of laughter and clinking tools echo through the trees, a stark contrast to the village's somber mood. Poirot's sharp eyes take in the scene, tents pitched in a clearing, maps strewn across tables, and a fire crackling with the smell of coffee brewing. Jack Harlan himself emerges, a tall, rugged American with a booming voice and a cigar clamped between his teeth. He greets Poirot with a firm handshake, his eyes narrowing in curiosity. The famous detective. "What brings you to this godforsaken jungle?" Harlan asks, his tone friendly but guarded. Poirot smiles politely, explaining his invitation from Laurent and the Sapphire theft, watching Harlan's reaction, closely a flicker of surprise, perhaps feigned. The camp buzzes with activity as Poirot is introduced to the team. There's Eliza Thorne, a sharp-witted British cartographer with maps inked in precise detail, her hands stained from charcoal sketches. She nods curtly, her eyes avoiding direct contact. Then comes Miguel Santos, a local guide with scarred arms. From years in the jungle, his knowledge of the terrain invaluable, but his loyalty questionable. And finally, Dr. Helena Voss, a German anthropologist specializing in Amazonian myths, her notebooks filled with tales of gods and curses. Harlan offers Poirot a seat by the fire, pouring him a tin cup of strong coffee. As they talk, Poirot steers the conversation to the Sapphire. Harlan laughs it off at first, calling it native superstition, but admits his team has heard rumors. "We're here for ruins, not gems," he says. But Poirot notes the way Voss shifts uncomfortably, her fingers twisting a pendant around her neck. The detective probes gently, asking about their movements around the time of the theft. Harlan claims they were mapping a distant site, but Santos hesitates when confirming the alibi, his gaze dropping to the ground. Poirot's grey cells were inconsistencies already. Deeper into the discussion, Poirot learns more about the expedition's goals. They seek a lost city, guided by old maps and legends that mention the Tear of the Moon as a key artifact. Voss explains the myth in detail. The sapphire was said to be the goddess's eye, granting visions to the worthy but doomed to thieves. She recounts stories of past explorers who vanished after seeking it, their bodies found twisted in agony. Poirot listens intently, dismissing the supernatural but noting how the tale could inspire a killer to mimic a curse. He asks to see their maps, and Thorne reluctantly unrolls, one pointing to marked sites near the village. A red circle catches Poirot's eye close to the altar. "Just a potential dig," Thorne says quickly, but her voice wavers. Harlan changes the subject, boasting about their finds. Pottery shards, arrowheads, nothing valuable yet. As the sun dips lower, Poirot excuses himself to explore the camp subtly. He notices a locked chest in Harlan's tent, guarded by Santos. What's inside? Tools or something more? For viewers following along, picture yourself in Poirot's shoes surrounded by strangers, each with secrets. How would you spot the liar? Night falls quickly in the jungle, turning the camp into a circle of lantern light amid encroaching darkness. Poirot joins the group for dinner, grilled fish and plantains using the meal to observe dynamics. Harlan dominates, telling tall tales of past adventures, but Voss seems distant, scribbling in her notebook. Thorn argues with Santos about a route, her frustration evident. Poirot interjects with questions about the deaths. Harlan shrugs them off as jungle fever, but Voss mentions autopsy rumors. No visible wounds, just terror-frozen faces. The detective presses any enemies. Harlan admits rival collectors might be involved, naming a shadowy figure known as the Collector back in Rio, but Poirot senses deflection. Later, alone in a guest tent, he reviews notes. Harlan's bravado hides greed. Voss knows more about the curse. Thorn's maps suggest proximity. Santos could be bought. A noise outside a rustle makes him peer out. Shadows move, but it's just a monkey. Or is it? The jungle plays tricks, amplifying every sound. The next morning, Poirot rises early, his body aching from the hard cot, but his mind sharp. He corners Voss during her morning tea, appealing to her scholarly side. She opens up slightly, revealing she once saw the Sapphire in the village, its blue depths mesmerizing. It felt alive, she whispers, then clams up. Poirot thanks her and moves to Thorn, who's packing gear. He compliments her maps, then points out discrepancy states that overlap the theft. She blushes, claiming errors, but sees fear. Harlan interrupts, suggesting a joint search for the gem to clear Poirot agrees, sensing a trap or opportunity. As they prepare, Santos pulls him aside, warning in broken English, "Not trust them, curse real." Poirot nods, but trusts only facts. The group sets off toward a nearby ruin, hacking through vines. Along the way, Poirot finds a discarded glove-fine leather, not local, whose he pockets it silently. At the ruin, overgrown stones whisper of ancient civilizations. Harlan directs digs, but Poirot searches for clues. He spots fresh footprints near a collapsed wall leading to a hidden crevice. Inside, a scrap of paper, a note in code. Voss deciphers it, partially mentions Sapphire and midnight. A meeting. Harlan dismisses it as old, but tension rises. Suddenly, a scream. Thorn has found a body, half buried, face contorted in horror. It's Signora Carvalho, the missing trader. No wounds, just a blue tint to her lips. Poison, the curse. Strikes again. Panic spreads, but Poirot calms them, examining the scene. A puncture mark on her neck, subtle, like an insect bite. But no insect leaves sapphire dust. Weight traces of blue powder on her skin. The gem ground up. Harlan looks shocked, Voss pale, Thorn trembling, Santos muttering prayers. Poirot declares it murder, not curse, his voice steady. Back at camp, accusations fly. Harlan blames villagers. Voss suggests rivals. Thorn stays silent. Poirot gathers them, using his method. Observe, deduce. He reveals the glove matches Harlan's pair, missing one. Harlan protests lost days ago, but Poirot notes the code note in Thorn's handwriting. She confesses partially, scouting for the expedition, but didn't steal. Voss admits knowing Carvalho, who she sold artifacts to her. Santos reveals he guided Carvalho to the altar, a web of connections. Poirot pieces it. Greed links them all, but who's the killer? Another noise, gunshot, no, thunder. Rain pours, trapping them. Poirot uses the storm to probe deeper, sharing a hypothetical. Suppose the curse is a person, using fear to kill. Eyes widen. For you at home, this is where mysteries thicken, alliances shift, truths emerge. As rain drums on tents, Poirot confronts Harlan privately. The American admits ambition. The sapphire could fund his dreams, but murder, no. Voss confesses, fascination turned obsession. She touched the gem once, felt its power. Thorn reveals a debt to Harlan, forcing her involvement. Santos admits taking bribes, but the bodycar Volhu was meeting someone here. The note proves it. Poirot decodes more. Deliver or die. Blackmail. The detective's mind races. The thief is among them, using the curse to eliminate threats. A clue. Volhu's blue lip cyanide, perhaps, mimicking the gem's color. Clever, who has access. All but Voss studies poisons in myths. Suspicion builds. Dawn breaks. Rain easing. Poirot announces a plan. Recreate the theft. They return to the village altar, but en route, another twist. Santos vanishes. Found unconscious, bitten by a snake. No, injected. He wakes, accusing Thorn. Chaos. Poirot intervenes, revealing. The glove has Thorn's initials inside. She breaks. She stole the sapphire for Harlan, but someone else killed to take it. Harlan denies. Voss laughs bitterly. She has it for study. No, wait. Poirot stops them. It's all misdirection. The real killer, Laurent. No, too soon. He needs more. This chapter dives into the rival expedition, exposing layers of greed and deception that entangle Poirot further. Suspects multiply, clues mount, and the jungle's dangers heighten the stakes. In the next chapter, we'll see Poirot return to the village, confronting Laurent and uncovering betrayal closer to home. Keep watching. Chapter 3. Betrayal in the Shadows. Poirot leads the shaken group back through the pouring rain, their boots slogging through mud as thunder rumbles overhead like an ominous drumbeat. The discovery of Volhu's body has fractured the expeditions. Fragile unity, with accusations lingering in the humid air. Harlan mutters about pressing on with the search, but Poirot insists on returning to the village to inform Laurent and the authorities, such as they are, in this remote outpost. As they emerge from the trees, the village comes into view, its thatched roofs glistening under the downpour, lanterns flickering like wary eyes. Laurent rushes out to meet them, his face etched with worry, rain streaking his glasses. Mon Dieu, what has happened? He exclaims, ushering them into the communal hut where a fire crackles weakly. Poirot, ever composed despite his sodden clothes, recounts the grim find. Watching Laurent's reactions closely, a twitch of the mouth, a averted gaze. The botanist pales, claiming Volhu was a friend who traded rare plants with him. But Poirot's instincts hum. Why didn't Laurent mention her earlier? Inside the hut, villagers gather, murmuring in their native tongue, casting suspicious glances at the outsiders. Poirot dries his notebook by the fire, sketching connections, Volhu's involvement with both the village and the expedition. The blue powder on her skin hinting at a staged curse. He questions Laurent privately in a corner, the rain pattering on the roof like impatient fingers. Tell me, my friend, your dealings with Signora Volhu, were they only botanical? Laurent hesitates, then admits she approached him about the sapphire, offering a share if he helped authenticate it for buyers. But he swears he refused, fearing the legend. Poirot presses, and yet she ends up dead near rivals you knew about. Laurent protests innocence, but his hands tremble as he adjusts his specimen jars. The detective notices a faint blue stain. On one jar's labels sapphire dust or plant residue. Laurent explains it's from indigo dye, but Poirot, pockets a sample discreetly. For those tuning in, imagine the weight of old friendships cracking under suspicion. How far would you go to uncover the truth? As night deepens, the storm eases to a drizzle, and Poirot explores the village under moonlight, his flashlight cutting through mist. He visits the shaman, an elder named Kala, who sits cross-legged by a smouldering fire, beads rattling as he chants. Through a translator, Kala shares more about the curse. The tear of the moon demands blood if stolen, manifesting as visions that drive victims mad before death. He describes symptoms, hallucinations of glowing eyes, choking on shadows. Poirot correlates this with the bodies, frozen terror, blue-tinged lips. Not supernatural, he deduces, but a hallucinogenic poison mimicking the myth. Carla mentions seeing Laurent argue with Carvalho days before the theft, near the river. A new lead. Poirot thanks him with a nod, slipping away to Laurent's hut, rifling through drawers while the botanist sleeps nearby. Risky, but necessary. He finds letters from a Rio collector, promising riches for the gem. Betrayal. Laurent stirs, and Poirot retreats silently, heart pounding like the jungle drums. Morning brings steamy heat. The village stirring with choreswomen weaving baskets, men sharpening machetes. Poirot confronts Laurent over breakfast of fruit and coffee, laying out the letters. You invited me not just for help, but perhaps to divert suspicion. Laurent's face crumples. He confesses partial truth. Debt from failed expeditions drove him to consider selling artifacts. But he didn't steal the sapphire. Carvalho did, he claims, and tried to involve him. When he refused, she threatened exposure, but murder. Probstin, who silenced her. Laurent points to the expedition Harlan's greed. Yet Poirot senses more. Laurent's eyes dart to a locked trunk. Forcing it open later with the villagers' help, Poirot discovers vials of plant extracts poisons, including one that causes hallucinations and cyanosis, turning skin blue. Laurent returns, catching him. For research, he insists, but Poirot sees the lie. A struggle ensues, vials clattering, but villagers intervene. The confrontation escalates in the village square. Poirot gathering everyone: Laurent, the expedition members who've stayed nearby, and locals. He paces like a conductor, moustache twitching. The curse is no goddess's wrath, but a mortal's cunning. Poisons from the jungle, administered via darts, or food, staged to terrify. He reveals the vial, matching the blue residue. Laurent breaks. He created the poison for self-defense against thieves, but someone stole it. Who? Eyes turn to Santos, the guide who bridges both groups. Santos flees into the trees, but Harlan tackles him. Under pressure, Santos admits guiding Carvalho to steal the gem for a buyer, using Laurent's poison to eliminate witnesses who knew too much. The guide, explorer, young woman who saw the theft. But Carvalho double-crossed him, keeping the sapphire. He killed her to retrieve it, hiding it in the ruins. Poirot nods, but it's not complete. And the sapphire now? Santos smirks, claiming it's lost. But Voss steps forward, her voice steady. She found it in Carvalho's effects during the chaos, drawn by its myth. She hands it over, glowing faintly in her palm. The villagers gasp, but Poirot examines it real, but the curse exposed as human greed. Laurent apologizes, his betrayal rooted in desperation, not malice. He helped cover tracks unwittingly by calling Poirot, hoping to pin it on outsiders. The detective forgives, but warns. Friendship demands truth. Authorities are summoned via Radio arrests made Santos for murders, others for complicity, with the mystery cracking open. Poirot reflects by the river. The Sapphire returned to the altar amid rituals. But a loose end. The Rio collector mentioned in letters. Is there more? A boat arrives with a stranger, claiming to be from the museum, but his eyes gleam with avarice. Poirot's grey cells alert perhaps the true mastermind, for you viewers. This betrayal hits close, showing how trust erodes in isolation. Yet justice prevails, mostly. The air clears as Poirot prepares to delve deeper, sensing the web extends beyond the jungle. In the next chapter, we'll follow him to Rio, chasing the collector and facing urban dangers that test his wits anew. Don't miss it. Chapter 4. Shadows of the City. Poirot stands on the deck of a creaking steamer chugging down the Amazon River toward the coast, the jungle's green canopy receding like a closing curtain behind him. The Sapphire is back with the villagers, Santos in custody, and Laurent promising reform. But the detective's mind buzzes with unfinished threads, the mysterious Rio collector mentioned in those incriminating letters. Who is this figure, pulling strings from afar, orchestrating thefts and murders through proxies? Poirot adjusts his tie against the salty breeze as the boat docks in Manaus, then boards a flight to Rio de Janeiro, the city of samba and secrets. Urban sprawl replaces wild vines, but danger feels no less palpable. Arriving at Galeo Airport, he hails a taxi to Copacabana, where waves crash against golden sands and Art Deco buildings gleam under the sun. His hotel room overlooks the beach, but Poirot wastes no time unpacking. He pores over notes, circling the name Victor Moretti, the collector Laurent reluctantly revealed under questioning. Moretti, a reclusive antiquities dealer with a mansion in the hills, rumored to traffic in cursed relics. Poirot sips a cafezine, plotting his approach disguised as a buyer, or direct confrontation. The streets of Rio pulse with life vendors hawking acai bowls, musicians strumming guitars, tourists snapping photos of Sugarloaf Mountain. Poirot navigates the crowds, his polished shoes clicking on mosaic sidewalks, heading to the National Museum for Leeds. There, a curator named Sofia Ramos, with sharp features and a wealth of knowledge on Amazonian artifacts, agrees to meet him in a quiet archive room stacked with dusty tomes. She confirms Moretti's reputation, a shadowy patron who funds expeditions but never shows his face, collecting gems like the tear of the moon for a private vault. He's dangerous, she warns, her voice low. Rumors of rivals vanishing. Poirot shares details of the jungle crimes, watching her reaction a flicker of recognition. She admits Moretti contacted her once, offering a fortune for authentication services, but she declined. As they talk, Poirot notices a man lingering outside the window, fedora pulled low, a tail. He excuses himself abruptly, slipping out a side door to lose the shadow in the bustling mercado. For anyone watching this unfold, think about the shift from jungle isolation to city anonymity clues. Hiding crowds, now, not trees. Evening falls, casting Rio in neon glows, and Poirot attends a gala at the Teatro Municipal, invited via connections, a perfect spot to mingle with antiquities elite. Dressed in a tuxedo, moustache impeccably curled, he circulates among glittering guests, champagne flutes clinking. He overhears whispers, Moretti's latest acquisition, a cursed emerald from Peru, linked to accidents. Approaching a portly dealer named Eduardo Silva. Poirot poses as a Belgian collector interested in sapphires. Silver's eyes light up. He boasts of brokering deals for Moretti, describing the man's hilltop villa fortified like a fortress, with guards and alarms. He sees the future in those gems. Silver chuckles, but Poirot detects envy. Pressing for an introduction, Silver hesitates, then slips him a card with an address for a price. Poirot pays discreetly, pocketing the info. But as he leaves the theatre, footsteps echo behind him. A chase ensues through rainy alleys, Poirot ducking into a favela's labyrinthine paths, heart racing. He evades the pursuer, but a note is slipped under his hotel door later. Stop digging, or join the cursed. Threat confirmed. Moretti knows he's here. Undeterred, Poirot hires a local driver, a chatty fellow named Carlos, to stake out Moretti's villa in the Tejuca Forest Hills. They park discreetly among lush foliage, binoculars trained on wrought iron gates where armed sentries patrol. Through the lens, Poirot spots luxury cars arriving for what seems a private auction, guests in masks, carrying cases, disguising himself with a borrowed hat and coat from Carlos. He sneaks closer, scaling a low wall into manicured gardens alive with exotic birds. Hiding behind hedges, he overhears bids on relics. A Mayan dagger, an Inca mask, Andisa, blue gem described. As the Amazons tear, Moretti's voice booms from a balcony, silky and commanding. This sapphire holds power beyond gold. But Poirot notes it's a fake, lacking the faint glow of the real one. A decoy to flush out thieves, or proof the original is still missing. As he retreats, a guard spots him, barking orders. Gunshots ring out, bullets whizzing past as Poirot flees back to Carlos's car, tires screeching down winding roads. "You're loco, senor." Carlos laughs nervously, but Poirot's mind whirs. Moretti's auction is a trap. Back in his room, safe but bruised, Poirot connects dots over a map of Rio pinned to the wall. The fake sapphire suggests Moretti never received the real one. Santos or Carvalho must have withheld it. Recalling the jungle clues, he realizes Voss mentioned a Rio contact. Perhaps she lied about handing over the gem. A telegram to the Amazon confirms. Voss left abruptly after the resolution, heading south. Betrayal again. Poirot visits Sophia at her apartment in Ipanema, sharing his suspicions. She reveals a hidden file, Moretti's ledger, stolen by a former employee, listing buyers including international smugglers. One name stands out, Helena Voss, paid for consultation. The anthropologist was in deeper than admitted. Together, they decode entries. Shipments via Rio's port, poisons sourced from Laurent's plants. Sophia offers to introduce a police contact, Inspector Ramos, her brother, for backup. But as they leave, the building shakes an explosion. No, a car bomb outside, meant for them. Shrapnel flies, but they duck, unharmed. Moretti's reach is long. The next day, under Inspector Ramos's protection, a burly man with a nonsense moustache rivaling Poirot's, they raid a warehouse at the docks, tipped off by Silver, who's turned informant for immunity. Crates stacked. High smell of salt and secrets. Busting one open, they find artifacts galore, but no sapphire. Gunfire erupts. Moretti's men ambushing. A shootout ensues. Poirot using wits over weapons, toppling shelves to trap foes. In the chaos, he spots Voss fleeing with a satchel. Pursuit leads through container mazes, waves lapping nearby. Cornering her on a pier, Poirot demands truth. The real sapphire, you kept it. Voss confesses tearfully, obsessed with its myth. She swapped a fake in the jungle, planning to sell to Moretti herself. But he discovered the ruse, sending killers, the deaths. Santos's work, but on Moretti's orders, via coded wires. She hands over the gem, its blue depths swirling like a storm. Inspector Ramos arrives, cuffing Voss as sirens wail. But Moretti escapes, his yacht vanishing into the Atlantic. Poirot examines the sapphire genuine, cursed only by greed. He returns it to Sofia for the museum, ensuring it's protected. Yet questions linger. Moretti's network spans continents. As Poirot boards a plane home, a postcard arrives. The curse follows. From Moretti. The game isn't over. This chapter thrusts Poirot into Rio's vibrant yet treacherous underbelly, unraveling a larger conspiracy of artifact smuggling and deception. Alliances form and shatter, but the detective's logic prevails amid the chaos. In the next chapter, we'll see him back in Europe, facing Moretti's final gambit in a high-stakes showdown that ties all threads. Stay engaged. Chapter 5. The final gambit. Poirot's plane touches down in London. The familiar grey drizzle, a stark contrast to Rio's vibrant chaos. The Sapphire is safe, Voss in custody, but Victor Moretti, the elusive collector, remains at large, a shadow, pulling strings across continents. Poirot's mustache twitches as he settles into his Baker Street flat, surrounded by polished mahogany and ticking clocks, but rest eludes him. The postcard's warning, the curse follows, sits on his desk like a taunt. His grey cells churn. Moretti's empire thrives on fear and relics. He won't stop. A telegram from Inspector Ramos confirms Moretti was spotted in Paris, linked to an underground auction of stolen artifacts. Poirot decides to pursue, booking a train to France. The Orient Express awaits, its luxurious cars a gilded stage for what he senses is the final act. As he boards, a porter hands him a cryptic note slipped under his cabin door. Midnight, dining car. Come alone, Moretti, or a trap. For you watching, imagine stepping into a game where every stranger might be an enemy. Would you play? Paris greets Poirot with autumn chill, the Eiffel Tower piercing low clouds. He checks into a modest hotel near the Seine, blending into the city's bustle. Cafes alive with chatter, street artists sketching under gaslights. His first stop is an antiquities dealer in Montmartre, Madame Dubois, a wiry woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for knowing the black market's pulse. Over cognac in her cluttered shop, she reveals Moretti's plan, a secret auction at a chateau outside Paris, where the elite bid on cursed relics, including a rumoured sister, to the tier of the Muna ruby tied to a similar myth. Dubois warns of Moretti's enforcers, ex-legionnaires who silence threats. She slips Poirot an invitation, stolen from a client, but her hands shake. He knows you're coming, monsieur. Poirot nods, memorizing the chateau's address. As he leaves, a motorbike roars past. To closer, warning shot. He ducks into an alley, heart pounding, but the rider vanishes. The stakes are rising. Night falls, and Poirot hires a discreet driver to the Chateau de Vaux, a sprawling estate in the countryside, its turrets looming like sentinels. Disguised in a borrowed cloak and spectacles, he slips into the auction, blending with masked bidders, tycoons, diplomats, and shadowy figures clutching briefcases. Crystal chandeliers cast light on velvet-draped tables displaying relics, a Viking amulet, an Egyptian scarab, and the ruby glowing like blood. Moretti presides, a tall figure in a tailored suit, his voice smooth but eyes cold. Tonight, we claim history's secrets, he declares, raising the ruby. Poirot watches from the shadows, noting bidders' fervor, greed masking fear. He spots a familiar face. Eduardo Silva, the Rio dealer, now nervous, clutching a ledger. A traitor. Poirot edges closer, overhearing Silva whisper to a bidder about a delivery gone wrong, the Sapphire. Moretti's gaze sweeps the room, pausing near Poirot. Has he been made? The auction escalates, bids soaring into millions. Poirot slips backstage, finding a locked office. Picking the lock with a hairpinner skill honed in less savory cases, he uncovers documents. Moretti's network spans Istanbul, Cairo, Shanghai, funneling relics to warlords and magnates. A photo shows Moretti with Voss in Rio, confirming her. Deeper roll, but annoys footsteps. Poirot hides under a desk as Moretti enters with a henchman, discussing a final shipment to London tied to the ruby's curse. The Belgians close. Moretti hisses, "End him tonight." Poirot's breath catches. He's hunted, slipping out as they leave. He rejoins the crowd, but Silva sports him, palling. Before Poirot can act, a scream. Silva collapses, a dart in his neck, lips turning red. The ruby's curse. No, poison again, staged for terror. Panic erupts, guests fleeing, but Moretti vanishes into a secret passage. Poirot gives chase, navigating the chateau's maze of corridors, portraits, glaring down like silent witnesses. The passage leads to a cellar, damp and lined with crates. Moretti's stash. Alone, Poirot finds the ruby on a pedestal, but it's rigged a tripwire. He disarms it, years of crime scenes sharpening his instincts. Footsteps again. Moretti, with two armed men. "Monsieur Poirot, your persistence is tiresome," he sneers, gun raised. Poirot, calm, stalls with words. "Your empire crumbles, Moretti. Silva's ledger exposes you." A bluff, but it works. Moretti hesitates, revealing. His motive, relics fuel his power, curses his weapon to control buyers through fear. The ruby, like the sapphire, was a tool. Its curse, a mix of tetrodotoxin and theatrics. Poirot goads him. A coward hides behind myths. Enraged, Moretti lunges, but Poirot sidesteps, toppling crates to trap one guard. The other fires. Grazing Poirot's arm. Chaos erupts as Inspector Ramos bursts in, tipped off by Poirot's earlier wire with French police. A firefight pins Moretti's men, but he slips out a tunnel. Poirot, blood seeping through his sleeve, pursues, emerging. In a vineyard under moonlight, Moretti sprints toward a waiting car, but Poirot, limping, throws a rock-perfect aim, tripping him. Ramos cuffs Moretti, who spits curses, not of gods, but of lost empires. Back at the chateau, police seize crates, the ruby secured for a museum. Poirot collapses on a bench, bandaged but triumphant. Ramos shares news. Voss confessed fully, implicating Moretti's global ring. Silva's death was Moretti's last attempt to silence leaks. The ledger recovered. Names, clients' cases for another day. Dawn breaks over Paris. The city waking as Poirot sips espresso at a cafe, reflecting. The tear of the moon and its ruby kin were pawns in a game of greed, not gods. Yet, final words haunt. Others will rise. A new network. Poirot files it away, his grey cells never idle. For you at home, this is where mysteries end, but questions linger. Can one man stop a tide of ambition? Poirot did, for now. This case closes, but adventure calls again. Thanks for joining this wild ride through jungles and cities. If you loved Poirot's triumph, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment your favorite twist below. Until next time, keep your eyes sharp and your mind sharper. Chapter 6. Echoes of the curse. Poirot lingers at the Parisian café. The morning sun warming his face as he stirs another espresso, his bandaged arm a subtle reminder of the chateau skirmish. The ruby is en route to a secure vault, Moretti behind. Bars awaiting trial and telegrams from Rio confirm the smuggling ring's dismantlement. Yet, as pedestrians bustle past with baguettes and newspapers, a nagging doubt creeps in Moretti's parting sneer about others' rising echoes like a distant thunder. Poirot dismisses it at first, attributing it to a villain's bluster. But a courier arrives with an envelope marked urgent from London. Inside, a clipping from the Times, mysterious death in Mayfair victim clutching blue shard. The article details a wealthy socialite, Lady Evelyn Hargrove, found lifeless in her drawing room, her fingers wrapped around a fragment of sapphire, face twisted in apparent terror. No signs of struggle, just a faint blue residue on her lips. Poirot's eyes narrow. The method mirrors the Amazon killings. Coincidence? Or has the curse's shadow followed him home? He packs swiftly, boarding the next train to Calais, then the ferry across the channel, his mind mapping connections. Hargrove was a known collector, perhaps linked to Moretti's clients. Back in foggy London, Poirot hails a hansom cab to Scotland Yard, where his old ally, Inspector Japp, greets him with a hearty slap on the back, careful of the wound and a steaming cup of tea. "Poirot, old chap, thought you'd be sipping wine in France by now," Japp chuckles, but his face turns grave as he spreads case files across his desk. Lady Hargrove, 52, widow of a shipping magnate, hosted salons for artifact enthusiasts. The night before her death, she entertained guests, including a visiting archaeologist from Cairo and a shady importer named Reginald Blackwood. Witnesses report her excitement over a new acquisition, a shard said to be from an ancient gem. Poirot examines photos. The shard's deep blue hue matches the tear of the moon. "Impossible," he mutters. "The original is secured. A fake, or a piece broken off during the jungle chaos." Japp mentions autopsy results poison, a rare neurotoxin causing hallucinations and cardiac arrest, tinted blue to evoke a curse. Poirot requests interviews, starting with Blackwood, whose address is a dingy warehouse in the East End. As they drive through rain-slick streets, Poirot ponders. If Moretti's imprisoned, who's continuing the game? An apprentice? A rival claiming the mantle? The warehouse looms amid docks, crates stacked like tombstones, the Thames lapping murkily nearby. Blackwood, a wiry man with a scarred cheek and evasive eyes, ushers them into a cluttered office smelling of tobacco and brine, he claims. Innocence, admitting he sold Hargrove the shard as a harmless trinket from South American contacts. "Nothing cursed about it," he sneers. But Poirot notes his fidgeting hands and a telegram on his desk from Paris, signed VM, Victor Moretti. Blackwood denies it, saying it's from a vendor, but Japp confiscates it. Poirot probes. "You knew of the Sapphire's legend?" Blackwood nods reluctantly, recounting tales of its fragments carrying the goddess's wrath. Leaving Poirot spots a hidden safe. Later, with a warrant, they crack it vials of blue poison, matching the jungle brew. Blackwood flees through a back door, leaping onto a barge. A chase ensues along the riverbank, Japp puffing behind as Poirot, agile despite age, corners him on a pier. Under arrest, Blackwood confesses partially, hired by an anonymous bidder, to distribute shards, laced with poison, to eliminate collectors who outbid them on relics. But who? The telegram decodes 2 instructions for another hit. That evening, in his flat, Poirot hosts Jap for supper roast beef and Yorkshire pudding, a concession to English tastes while dissecting clues. The shard's origin traces to a Rio fence, linked to Moretti's remnants. A phone call from Ramos interrupts. Moretti escaped during transfer, aided by insiders. He's loose, vengeful. Poirot's grey cells ignite. The deaths are retaliation, using curse mimics to frame supernatural forces and cover tracks. Next, target. Perhaps Poirot himself. A knock at the door, a delivery boy with a package. Inside a sapphire shard and a note. The tear weeps for you. Poirot sniffs, it poisoned. He seals it, calling Jap back. They set a trap. Announce Poirot's discovery of the full gem in the papers, luring Moretti out. For viewers piecing this together, consider how echoes of past sins ripple forward. One solved puzzle births another. Would you bait the trap? The plan unfolds at a staged auction in a Bloomsbury gallery, artifacts on display as bait. Poirot, disguised as a bidder with a false beard, mingles with the crowd curators, heiresses, undercover yardmen. Tension builds as lots are called, vases, statues, then the reassembled sapphire. Bids fly, but Poirot watches for anomalies. A man in a trench coat, face obscured, bidding aggressively. It's Moretti, scarred from the escape. As the hammer falls, Moretti approaches the podium, but Jap's men close in. Moretti pulls a vial, threatening to shatter it. Poison gas. Chaos, guests scream, scrambling. Poirot intervenes, knocking the vial away with his cane, but inhales a whiff. Visions swirling glowing eyes, jungle vines choking him, hallucination. He fights it, logic anchoring him. It's not real. Moretti lunges, but Poirot trips him into a display case, shards flying. Jap cuffs him again, this time with reinforced chains. In the aftermath, at yard headquarters, Moretti rants about an eternal curse, but breaks under interrogation. The shards were from a replica, used to scare competitors in a bid to rebuild his empire from hiding. Hargrove knew too much about his operations. Blackwood a pawn. The poison formula stolen from Laurent's notes. Poirot, recovering from mild exposure, ties loose ends. Other shards recovered from Blackwood's contacts, preventing more deaths. Lady Hargroves made confesses, witnessing the poisoning, paid off, but now turning evidence, as Moretti is shipped to a maximum security prison. Poirot reflects by the Thames, fog rolling in like forgotten myths. The curse was always human greed. Vengeance, deception, yet a final twist among seized items. A map to an undiscovered Amazon temple, hinting at more gems. Poirot files it, but curiosity sparks. The adventure isn't over. Shadows linger. This chapter reignites the intrigue back in Europe. With old foes resurfacing and new threats testing Poirot's resolve. Betrayals echo, but justice holds. In the next chapter, we'll venture into uncharted territories as Poirot follows the map, uncovering ancient secrets that could rewrite history. Keep following. Chapter 7. The Temple of Shadows. Poirot sits in his Baker Street flat, the London fog curling outside his window like a restless spirit. The sapphire case seems closed, Moretti imprisoned, poison shards confiscated, justice served. Yet the map found among Blackwood's effects burns in his mind, a brittle parchment sketching an uncharted Amazon temple, marked with symbols hinting at a hidden trove of relics, perhaps kin to the tear of the moon. His grey cells hum with This be the source of the cursed gems, or a final trap set by Moretti's network? Despite Japp's warnings to let it rest, Poirot books passage back to Brazil, drawn by the lure of unsolved mysteries. The steamer ride down the Amazon is quieter this time, the river's murky depths reflecting his unease. Landing in Manaus, he hires a new guide, Diego, a wiry man with a scar across his brow and a deep knowledge of uncharted tributaries. As their boat cuts through mist, Poirot clutches the map, its faded lines pointing to a region shunned by locals. Diego warns of jaguars and treacherous rapids, but Poirot's focus is singular. The truth awaits. For you watching, picture venturing into a place where history hides its darkest secrets. Would you dare follow? The journey deepens into uncharted waters, the jungle closing in like a living wall. Vines drape over the river, and unseen creatures splash in the shadows. Diego points out ancient carvings on rock spirals and eyes like those on the map. They dock near a hidden inlet, hacking through dense foliage to a clearing where stone ruins rise, half swallowed by roots. The temple, carved with serpentine motifs, looms under a canopy that blocks the sun. Poirot's flashlight reveals an entrance, its doorway etched with warnings in a forgotten dialect. Diego translates haltingly, "Those who seek the tears will weep forever." Poirot dismisses superstition but notes the precision of the carvings, work of a civilization guarding something precious. Inside, the air is cool, smelling of moss and thyme. Passages twist downward, walls adorned with murals of a goddess, her eyes gem-like, hands dripping blue. Poirot's pulse quickens. The map's coordinates align here, but footprints in the dust fresh suggest they're not alone. Deeper in, the temple opens to a chamber, its center a stone altar like the villages, but grander, ringed by statues of warriors clutching spears. On the altar, a niche empty, but scratched as if recently robbed. More gems. Poirot examines the statues, finding one with a loose base. Beneath it, a cache, scrolls, gold amulets, and a single sapphire shard, glowing faintly like its predecessor. He pockets it, but a click echoes a trap. The floor shifts, revealing a hidden staircase descending further. Diego hesitates, muttering about spirits, but Poirot insists, the only spirits here are human greed. They descend, torches flickering, into a crypt lined with alcoves. Each holds a skeleton, adorned with jewelry, priests or victims. One clutches a clay tablet, its script matching the map. Poirot sketches it, but a shadow moves a figure darting past. Diego draws a knife, but Poirot stays calm, calling out, "Show yourself." No answer, only the drip of water. The pursuit leads to a flooded chamber, ankle-deep water reflecting their light. Poirot finds a satchel abandoned, containing tools and a journal in French. It belongs to Pierre Dubois, Madame Dubois's estranged son, an archaeologist obsessed with Amazonian myths. Entries describe a vault of tears, a chamber holding the goddess's full collection, guarded by traps. Dubois wrote of being hired by an unknown patron, Moretti's successor. As Poirot reads, a dart whizzes past, embedding in a wall. Blue poison glistens on its tip. Diego shouts, spotting a cloaked figure retreating. They give chase, navigating a maze of tunnels, walls etched with warnings of betrayal. The figure vanishes at a dead end, but Poirot finds a concealed lever. It opens a door to a vast chamber, lit by bioluminescent fungi, revealing a pool where dozens of sapphires gleam underwater. Reach, a perfect tear, a fortune, but deadly. For viewers, imagine standing before unimaginable wealth, knowing it's cursed by human hands. Would you touch it? Poirot resists temptation, focusing on clues. The pool's edge shows signs of recent disturbance. Someone's been here. He spots a rope tied to a pillar leading into the water. Before he can investigate, Diego cries out, clutching his arm, a dart wound, lips turning blue. Poirot drags him to safety, administering charcoal from his pack to slow the poison, a trick learned from Laurent's notes. Diego gasps, naming Dubois as the attacker, seen earlier scouting the river. Poirot leaves him to rest, following the rope into the pool's shallow end. Beneath, a grate hides a tunnel. Emerging, he finds Dubois unmasked, rigging explosives to collapse the chamber. "You're too late, Poirot," he sneers, revealing his plan. Steal the sapphires, sell them through a new network, and bury evidence. His patron, a shadowy figure in Istanbul, continuing Moretti's work. Poirot deduces Dubois killed Hargrove. Using a shard to test the poison's market, a standoff ensues, Dubois brandishing a pistol. Poirot, unarmed, uses logic. "Your explosives will trap you too." Dubois laughs, but doubt flickers. Poirot edges closer, recounting the temple's traps, pressure plates, dart mechanisms. Dubois steps back, triggering one. Darts fly, grazing him. He stumbles, dropping the detonator. Poirot seizes it, disarming the explosives with steady hands, his wound from Paris aching. Dubois lunges, but Poirot sidesteps, tripping him into the pool. The archaeologist thrashes, trapped by his own rope. Diego, recovered enough, binds him. Poirot retrieves the journal, confirming Istanbul's linker name, Selim Bey, a dealer with ties to warlords. The sapphires remain too dangerous to move. Poirot seals the chamber, vowing to alert authorities via Mena as they trek back. Diego stabilized. Poirot reflects on the temple's law beauty, masking death. He sends the shard and journal to Ramos, ensuring the sapphires are guarded by locals, not looted. But Selim Bey looms, a new puppet master. At a Manar's telegraph office, Poirot receives a wire. Istanbul awaits. The tears never sleep. A chill runs through him. The curse is a myth, but greed's reach is endless. This chapter plunges Poirot into ancient ruins, where history and betrayal collide, unveiling a new layer of the conspiracy. The sapphire's allure tests even his resolve, but truth prevails. In the next chapter, we'll follow him to Istanbul, chasing Selim Bey through bazaars and shadows, where the final threads of this global web unravel. Stay with us. Chapter 8. Bazaar of Deceptions. Poirot steps off the Orient Express in Istanbul. The city's minarets piercing a sky streaked with dawn's golden hues. The telegram's warning, the tears never sleep, propels him forward. The name Selim Bey, a spectre from Dubois's journal, a dealer weaving webs in the Grand Bazaar. The air hums with spice and chatter as Poirot navigates cobbled streets. His suitcase light, but his mind heavy with the temple's revelations. Selim Bey, rumoured to be Moretti's silent partner, trades in shadows, funneling cursed relics to eager buyers across the east. Poirot checks into a modest hotel overlooking the Bosphorus, waves lapping like whispered secrets. He pores over the journal, circling entries about a vault under the domes where sapphires change hands. A local contact, an old friend from Interpol named Ahmet Kaya, meets him in a tea house, steam rising from tulip-shaped glasses. Kaya, with a bushy mustache and weary eyes, confirms Selim's elusiveness. He operates from hidden stalls, guarded by loyalists who vanish foes in the cisterns below. Poirot shares the map and shard. Kaya nods, arranging a bazaar guide. As they part, a street urchin slips Poirot a note. Eyes watch. Seek the blue lantern. Ally or lure. The detective tucks it away, his instincts alert. The grand bazaar bursts with life merchants haggling over carpets, lamps casting kaleidoscopic patterns, scents of saffron and leather mingling. Poirot, disguised in a fez and loose robes borrowed from Kaya, blends into the throng, his sharp eyes scanning for the blue lantern. Stalls overflow with trinkets, but whispers guide him to a narrow alley where a cerulean light sways. Inside a dim shop, an elderly vendor named Fatima greets him with kohl-lined eyes, offering tea laced with cardamom. She knows Selim, she admits, a cousin who deals in forgotten tears. For a prize information on the temple she reveals his. Next, meet. Midnight at the Basilica Cistern, trading a sapphire batch to a Russian buyer. Poirot pays with coins and caution, noting her trembling hands. Is she trustworthy? As he leaves, a shadow tails him through the labyrinth. Selim's spy. He loses the pursuer in a spice cloud, ducking into a hammam for cover, steam obscuring his escape. For those following this tale, envision the bazaar's maze as a puzzle of trust, every face a potential piece. Evening drapes the city in twilight, mosques calling to prayer as Poirot prepares. Kaya provides a concealed microphone and back officers posing as tourists. The Basilica Cistern descends like an underworld, columns rising from shallow water, Medusa heads staring eternally. Echoes amplify every drip as Poirot hides behind a pillar, the air cool and dank. Midnight nears. Footsteps approach. Selim Bey emerges, a portly man in a silk kaftan, flanked by burly guards, carrying a velvet pouch. The Russian, Ivan Petrov, arrives opposite, his accent thick, demanding proof of the gem's authenticity. Selim unveils them sapphires, mirroring the temple's pool, each pulsing faintly. From the goddess's vault, he boasts, but Poirot deduces. Fakes, the glow is artificial, perhaps radium tinted. Bargaining ensues, prices soaring, but tension crackles. Petrov suspects deceit. Poirot signals Kaya via the mic, but a guard spots the wire. Chaos erupts, shouts, splashes as fights break out in the water. Poirot emerges, cane raised, disarming a guard with a precise strike. Selim flees toward an exit, pouch clutched. The chase spills into night streets, lanterns blurring as Poirot pursues Kaya's men close behind. Selim ducks into a mosque courtyard, but Poirot corners him against a fountain. Your game ends, Bey, the detective declares, revealing the journal's secrets. Selim sneers, admitting alliance with Moretta funding expeditions, distributing poisons to enforce the curse myth, the sapphires. Replicas sold to fund real digs, the temple's location extracted from Dubois before his arrest. But the Russian interrupts, gun drawn, demanding the real gems. A double cross, Petrov is a rival. Collector, using the meat to steal. Gunfire echoes, but Kaya arrives, subduing Petrov. In the melee, Selim slips a poisoned ring toward Poirot, blue needle prick. The detective dodges, but grazes his hand, vision blurring with hallucinations, serpents coiling, goddess eyes glaring. He fights it, logic prevailing, antidote. In his pouch, Kaya forces Selim to reveal a vial, administering it just in time. Poirot steadies, the world sharpening. Dawn interrogation at a police station uncovers more. Salim's network spans Cairo to Shanghai, with a master vault in the bazaar. Raiding it, they find crates of relics, emeralds, rubies, all cursed with staged poisons. Documents name accomplices, including a mole in Interpol explaining Moretti's escape. Kaya arrests the traitor, sealing the ring. Poirot examines a true sapphire from the hall, its glow natural, tied to ancient rituals. He donates it to a museum, breaking the cycle. Yet Salim's last words, "The goddess has sisters, more temples, the curse's echo persists." As Poirot boards a ship home, a postcard arrives. Seek the Nile's tear. Another adventure brews. This chapter weaves Poirot through Istanbul's intrigue, dismantling a global web while facing deceptions that nearly claim him. Alliances hold, but mysteries multiply. In the next chapter, we'll sail to Egypt, where Nile shadows hide a new curse, testing the detective's limits once more. Don't stop now. Chapter 9. Whispers of the Nile. Poirot's ship slices through the Mediterranean. Istanbul's domes fading astern as the vessel steers toward Alexandria. The postcard's cryptic message, "Seek the Nile's tear," clutched in his hand like a talisman. Of trouble, Salim Bey's confession lingers, hinting at a sister gem to the Amazon's sapphire, hidden along Egypt's ancient river, where pharaohs once guarded secrets with curses more potent than any jungle myth. The sea air invigorates him, but his mind races. Who sent the postcard? A taunt from remnants of the network, or an invitation to deeper peril? Landing in Alexandria's bustling port, amid crates of cotton and calls of vendors, Poirot hires a felucca to sail up the Nile, its lateen sail billowing like a ghost. His guide, Karim, a scholarly Egyptian with a neatly trimmed beard and a passion for hieroglyphs, joins him, armed with maps and tales of lost tombs. As the boat glides past date palms and mud brick villages, Karim explains the legend. The Nile's tear, a lapis lazuli gem said to be the eye of Isis, granting fertility but flooding doom on thieves' drownings, madness, or vanishing sands. Poirot listens, his grey cells sifting fact from fable. But the river's hypnotic flow masks undercurrents of danger. The journey southward reveals Egypt's timeless beauty for Lucas, dotting the water, fishermen casting nets, ancient obelisks piercing the horizon. They dock at Luxor, the Valley of the Kings, a short ride away, where tourists swarm like locusts. Poirot visits the Karnak temple first, its hypostyle hall, a forest of columns etched with gods and battles. Amid the crowds, he overhears a British archaeologist, Dr. Amelia Croft, discussing a recent dig, artifacts surfacing near Aswan, including blue shards evoking the tear, approaching her in the shade of a pylon. Poirot introduces himself with a bow, his fame opening doors. Croft, with sun-kissed skin and a practical khaki outfit, shares her suspicions. Smugglers are looting sites, using curse myths to scare away locals. She mentions a contact in Cairo, a curator named Hassan El-Zayed, who catalogued similar gems. But as they talk, a scarab amulet slips from her pocket, blue faintly glowing. A replica, she claims, but Poirot notes her evasion. That night, in a Luxor hotel overlooking the Nile, a noise wakes him, an intruder rifling his room. Poirot confronts the shadow, cane raised, but the figure flees, dropping a papyrus note. The tear drowns the seeker, threat or clue. Pressing onto Aswan, the Nile narrows, granite boulders framing the water like sentinels. Karim arranges a camel trek to a remote dig site, sands whispering under hooves. The site, a half-buried temple dedicated to Isis, buzzes with workers under Croft's supervision. She's joined them, her expertise invaluable. Poirot examines trenches, unearthing pottery and beads, but his eye catches a hidden chamber, sealed with a curse inscription: "He who takes the eye shall thirst eternally." Breaking the seal with tools, they enter a dim antechamber, walls painted with Nile floods and weeping goddesses. At its heart, a pedestal empty but surrounded by blue dust. Footprints lead to a collapsed wall, suggesting recent theft. Croft pales, admitting she found a shard here weeks ago, sending it to El Sayed for study. Poirot deduces the thief mimics the curse, perhaps drowning victims in the river to perpetuate the legend. Karim reports local rumors: 3 deaths. A digger, a boatman, a merchant, all found waterlogged with blue-tinted skin, no struggle marks. Poison again, ingested or injected, causing pulmonary edema to simulate drowning. Deeper investigation draws Poirot to a nearby village. Mud huts clustered by the riverbank. Elders gather around a fire, sharing stories under stars, their faces lined like ancient scrolls. Through Karim's translation, they describe a shadowy trader, the scarab, who buys relics and vanishes into the desert. One elder produces a blue bead, claiming it from a drowned man's hand. Poirot pockets it for analysis, his portable kit revealing traces of a rare alkaloid lotus-derived, hallucinogenic, flooding lungs with fluid. Clever staging. Back at the dig, tension mounts. Croft receives a threat, a drowned rat left in her tent. Poirot sets a trap, announcing a major find to lure the culprit. Night falls, the Nile murmuring like a conspirator. Shadows stir. Figure approaches the chamber. Poirot ambushes, but it's Karim, eyes wide. "Not me," he protests, explaining he followed a noise. A dart flies from the dark, grazing Croft. She collapses, gasping, visions of rising waters. Poirot administers an antidote from his kit, stabilizing her as the attacker flees. The chase leads across dunes, moonlight casting long shadows. Poirot, on camelback, pursues the cloaked figure to the river's edge. Cornered, the scarab unmasks. El Sayed, the Cairo curator, his face twisted in greed. "The tear is mine," he snarls, revealing a pouch of lapis, gems stolen from sites, sold to fund a private collection echoing Moretti's empire. The deaths, eliminations of those who discovered his thefts, poisoned with lotus extract to invoke Isis's wrath. Croft, recovering, confesses partial complicity. She supplied shards, blackmailed by debts. Poirot binds El Sayed, signaling authorities via flare. But a Twistel Sayed laughs. The true tear lies in the pharaoh's shadow, guarded by sisters. Another temple. Interrogation yields a map to a submerged ruin near the Aswan Dam, flooded but accessible by dive dot. Dawn breaks as Poirot organizes a dive team, Croft insisting on joining despite weakness. Submerged in the Nile's cool embrace, visibility low amid silt, they navigate underwater passages, flashlights piercing gloom, statues of Isis loom, fish darting like omens. At the core, a sealed vault pobent with air tools, revealing a chamber. Half flooded, its altar holding the Nile's tear, a massive lapis orb swirling with inner light. But Rigda touching it triggers a collapse, water rushing in. Poirot spots the mechanism, disarming it with precise prods. They surface with the gem, its weight symbolic of burdens lifted. El Zayed's network crumbles, connections to Istanbul. Severed, yet the gem's glow hints at more sisters. Worldwide, a global chain of curses forged by man. Poirot reflects on a felucca ride back, the Nile serene. Greed's flood recedes, but echoes remain. He wires Jap, case expanding. A new postcard arrives. The desert's terror waits in Petra. The hunt continues. This chapter immerses Poirot in Egypt's enigmas, where river mysteries and ancient curses clash with modern deceit. Betrayals flow like the Nile, but the detective navigates to truth. In the next chapter, we'll trek to Jordan's rose-red city, uncovering Petra's hidden tear in a climax of revelation and peril. The end draws near, stay tuned. Chapter 10. The rose-reed reckoning. Poirot steps into Petra's sun-scorched sick. The narrow canyon walls towering like silent judges, their rose-reed hues glowing under Jordan's relentless sun. The postcard's latest clue, the desert's terror waits, has drawn him from the Nile's mysteries to this ancient Nabatean city, carved into cliffs and steeped in legends of hidden treasures. The lapis orb, the Nile's tear, rests safely in a Cairo museum. El Zayed's network dismantled, but the shadow of a global conspiracy lingers, its threads converging here. Poirot, clad in a linen suit and wide-brimmed hat, navigates the winding path with his new guide, Layla, a Bedouin archaeologist with keen eyes and a quiet strength. She speaks of the desert's tear, a fabled garnet said to be the heart of a Nabatean queen, granting prosperity but cursing thieves with visions of endless sands. Poirot's grey cells whirl. The pattern persists, gems, poisons, staged myths. As they pass the treasury's carved facade, tourists snapping photos. Layla warns of local unrest. Relic hunters have stirred trouble, and bodies have surfaced in the desert, lips red with poison. The final chapter looms, and Poirot senses the mastermind behind it all waits within Petra's stones. For you watching, imagine standing where history and danger collide. Would you face the final truth? The sick opens to Petra's heart, tombs and temples etched into cliffs, wind whispering through ancient channels. Layla leads Poirot to a dig site near the royal tombs, where she consults for a British team led by Sir Roland Baxter, a pompous scholar with a penchant for rare gems. Baxter greets Poirot with forced warmth, his tweed jacket out of place in the heat. Over tea in a canvas tent, he admits finding garnet fragments, their crimson glow evoking the legend. But his assistant, Omar, a young Jordanian with nervous hands, interrupts, reporting a theft. A shard vanished last night. Poirot examines the site, noting scuff marks and a faint red powder poison, like the blue and lotus concoctions before. Baxter dismisses it as a local sabotage, but Poirot suspects deeper ties. Layla whispers of a smuggler, the Falcon, rumored to trade cursed relics through Bedouin routes. A name surfaces, Zara Khalid, a wealthy expatriate funding digs, linked to Moretti's old network. Poirot requests a meeting, but Baxter hesitates, his eyes darting. Suspicion mounts. Night falls, Petra's cliffs bathed in starlight, the air cool and sharp. Poirot and Layla infiltrate a hidden cave, tipped off by a Bedouin boy who saw Khalid enter with guards. Inside, torchlight reveals crates of artifacts, vases, coins, and a garnet shard pulsing like a heartbeat. Khalid, a striking woman in silk robes, presides over a secret auction, buyers in kaffirs bidding via coded signals. Poirot, cloaked in shadows, records names with a pocket notebook. Khalid unveils the desert's tear, a flawless garnet the size of a fist, its legend fueling fevered bids. The queen's heart brings empires, she purrs, but Poirot spots the catch traces of red dust on her gloves, poison-laced. The death's-due diggers, a merchant mirror past cases, victims. Hallucinating deserts before suffocating, lungs clogged by a rare alkaloid. He signals Layla to alert Jordanian police, but a guard spots them. A chase erupts through Petra's maze, sand kicking underfoot, torches flaring. Poirot's cane trips a pursuer, but Khalid escapes toward the monastery, high in the cliffs. The ascent is grueling. Petra's steps carved into stone, wind howling like a banshee. Poirot, breathless but determined, corners collared in the monastery's vast facade, its columns framing a moonlit arena. She laughs, brandishing a dagger coated in red poison. "You're too late, Poirot. The tears are mine Amazon, Nile, now." Petra, she reveals the truth. She inherited Moretti's vision, uniting smugglers worldwide to weaponize cursed gems, selling fear as much as wealth. The garnet's poison, derived from desert plants, was her innovation, tested on locals too. Perfect the myth. Poirot counters, "Your empire is illusion, madame. Greed betrays all." He distracts her, recounting her network's collapse. Selim, El Sayed, Dubois fallen. Her guard wavers. Layla tackles her, disarming the dagger. Police arrive, led by a stern captain, cuffing Khalid as she spits defiance. The tears are endless. Poirot finds her ledger, naming buyers from Tokyo to New York, the final links in the chain. Dawn breaks, Petra's cliffs blushing pink. The garnet is secured for Jordan's museum, its curse exposed as chemical trickery. Poirot examines the ledger with Layla, decoding routes that tie every case jungle. River, desert too, one ambition, power through fear. The captain confirms arrests worldwide, dismantling the network. But a final clue, Khalid's diary mentions. A final tear in the Himalayas, a diamond tied to a Tibetan myth. Poirot declines to chase it, weary but satisfied. The desert's tear joins its sisters, displayed to educate, not enchant. He bids Layla farewell, her gratitude warm as the sun. On a camel trek back, he reflects by a Bedouin fire, stars above, endless. Greed's curse is universal, but so is justice. Back in London, Poirot sips tisane in his flat, the map and postcards filed away. The world's tears, sapphire, lapis, garnet are safe, their myths undone, yet his grey cells stir. A diamond awaits, perhaps for another detective. For you at home, this journey from jungle to desert shows truth triumphs over terror, but vigilance remains. What mysteries would you solve? This final chapter seals Poirot's saga, unraveling a global conspiracy in Petra's ancient heart. From Amazon to Jordan, his logic conquered greed's illusions. Thank you for joining this epic adventure. If you loved the twists, hit like, subscribe, and comment your favorite moment below. Stay curious, and we'll see you for the next mystery.